The Amazing Spider-Man 2. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is the sequel to The Amazing Spider-Man reboot in 2012 of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy back in the earlier 2000s. And really good. It got kind of mixed reviews. Some people like it, some people don't. They think it has a lot of the same problems Spider-Man 3 has, and I would kind of agree, but they do not bother me nearly as much. Like, this movie is awesome. This is the perfect example of a summer, it came out in April, of a spring blockbuster. It's directed by Mark Webb. He did the last one. Andrew Garfield is Richard Parker. Emma Stone is Gwen Stacy. Jamie Foxx is Electro. Dane DeHaan, I believe is how you say it, as Harry Osborn, and then Paul Giamatti's barely in the movie. Having him on the poster is like having a random thug from The Dark Knight Rises on the poster next to Bane and Catwoman. Like, it's an interesting choice. I went into this movie really not... I went into it kind of hating it. And like, it got mixed reviews. I'm like ready to slam this movie. I didn't see it in theaters. So when it came out to Redbox, we went to alright, let's give it a try. And the plane sequence, when I first saw it, I'm like, this is terrible, this is annoying. And I recently rewatched the film. And it's just so much better the second time. I don't know. I went into it hating, and I kind of let that influence my opinion of the film. I mean, I still ended up liking it a lot, but I'm like, it's got a rocky start and then it gets good. Like, no, start is just fine. The music, the Hans Zimmer score is just awesome. It is like perfect for this movie. You know, like in the trailer when he's like coming down from really high and his suit's like ripping, it's like doing the theme that was in the my intro. I hope that there's like a copyright or anything. And then Electro's got his... And I normally hate dubstep. No. I refuse to acknowledge dubstep as a genre of music. Here, like, it works really well here. You're just like, yeah, Electro. This movie has a couple different story arcs going on. At the end of the first film, spoiler alert, Gwen's dad dies, and he makes Peter promise that he won't date Gwen. But then by the end of the movie, they start dating again. And then they're dating at the beginning of this movie, and then they like break up again, and they get back together. It's like, I think like to have one breakup and then get back together would be fine, but like his death is clearly haunting Peter, and he's kind of seeing him like everywhere. And he's like rubs his eyes, and then it's a different guy. So, and that's something that's he's conflicted about. I mean, he loves Gwen Stacy. All right, they are a very, very cute couple. Like, I love Emma Stone. She's awesome, man. She's perfect as Gwen Stacy. So much more interesting than Kirsten Dunst as Mary Jane in the older movies. And then there's the Electro arc. Electro works at Oscorp, and through like completely these guys are like dicks to him. Oh my gosh. He's like, it's his birthday. The guy just wants to go home. He made himself a cake because he's got no friends and he's a loser. It's really, really sad. Like, his boss tells him to go like check something in the thing right before everyone else leaves. He's like the only guy left in the building. Goes down and checks it, and he's got to like reconnect a plug or something, but he's got to turn the power off first. So he calls this other guy and he's like, hey, turn the power off. And he's like, nope, I'm out the door. And it's like, what an asshole. Turn off the power. Kill this guy, or turn him into a supervillain. Harry Osborn is the other thing. He was friends with Peter back in the day, but now they're not because they haven't met in a while. I like Harry, but I think some out-of-character decisions are made. Like, you are making all the decisions to lead to conflict. This could be so easily resolved with a little cooperation, but like, it's destined to not happen. Spider-Man 2 is like, is this thing, is like, just do the thing. It's like, why are you... Come on. But whatever. And then the other story arc is with Peter's parents. This is something that really wasn't tackled in the first trilogy that I liked a lot better in the first movie. This is like, well, we know he worked at Oscorp and there was some kind of conspiracy and he had to cover it up and leave. But I was really interested and intrigued to find out more about that. And in this movie, initially, when the first time I saw it, I'm like, this is terrible, this is so lazy. But the second time, I'm like, this is fine. I don't know why this bothered me so much the first time. There's this little reveal, you're like, oh, okay, so that's why this is this, and alright, I get it. But for the most part, it kind of... I would say the suspense built up on the first movie doesn't really carry over into this movie as much. Like, they kind of just like solve it and then drop it. Visually, this movie, fantastic. The action sequences are just like, with Hans Zimmer's score accompanying them, they are just like, yeah, oh, Spider-Man. Boom, like the part in the trailer where he's going through all the electric stuff and he's fighting with Electro. Electro's like shooting lightning out of his hands and stuff. So how was the villain? Electro, he's good. A lot of people like Jamie Foxx is really miscast, and I'm like, He's by no means Bane or the Joker or nothing, but he's a very functioning villain. He's like a step below the decent Batman villains, and then a step above the kind of forgettable MCU villains like Malekith and everyone else. His powers are kind of confusing and kind of like, what? But like, you know, like, okay, so like he can like teleport and put himself into electricity stuff, and then it's like, well, if he can manipulate electricity, like Magneto could manipulate metal or something, that wouldn't make sense. But like the electricity is a lot more complex than that. You think, all right, he could kind of convert himself into binary code and then put it into there, and I could run with that. But he looks really cool with like the blue skin and the veins and stuff you can see under his stuff, and his voice is a little different. Whenever he and Spider-Man are fighting, it's always awesome. It's like, yeah, that sequence in the power plant, like that's near the end of the movie, and it's like, yeah, it's like, it's all slow motion and the stuff is happening, and it's really, really cool and really well done. That part was really good. I think while Electro worked, I don't feel the Green Goblin did as much. I think Harry kind of goes off the deep end because the story tells him to. Paul Giamatti though, when he is on screen, I think he's awesome. Like, he's clearly having fun with the role. Like I said, he's a random gangster, and he's just so like, yeah, he's like yelling and crazy, and he's got the Russian accent, and he's like, I hate you, Spider-Man. And whenever Spider-Man's talking to kids, it's always he's really good with the kids, but I think he gets a little dopey, childish with them. Like, he pulls down his pants, it's like, that's just immature, come on, that wasn't funny. The ending of this movie, I'm not going to say exactly what happens, but here's your mild spoiler alert. It's just so emotional and good, and you're like, no! The music, you just like, you want to cry, it's like, no! Yeah, Gwen Stacy dies. The set in which this takes place is like a clock tower and it's all dark, and I feel it just kind of reminded me of like the original trilogies. Like, other than Batman, Spider-Man is like the darkest superhero out there. Like, so many bad things happen, so many people die. Like, wow, especially compared to Marvel. You ever notice that's kind of a trend? They like make you try to think that someone's gonna die, and then they never do, and you're just like, yeah, whatever. But I knew when it switched to slow motion, I'm like, oh my gosh, she's gonna die, because I know in the comic how she dies is she's falling and he web shoots her and she snaps her neck with the whiplash and she dies. That's essentially what happens here. But he's like, it's in slow motion and the music playing, it's like, doom, doom, and Peter, it's like, she turns on his spider sense and he's like, dives, bombs, and he's dodging all the debris and everything, and then he like, and the web like turns into a hand to reach out and grab her, and I'm like, no! I think if the movie had ended there, like after she died at her funeral, just like at Peter Parker at her funeral, and there's like snow falling down, and then just like fade to black, and then have like directed by Mark Webb with the snow falling. I think that would have been a much cleaner end of the movie, and then he could like rise in the next one. Yeah, music, fantastic, all around pretty good cast. Emma Stone's great, Peter Parker's great. Jamie Foxx is good enough. Dane DeHaan is good, except when he's the Green Goblin. Visual effects are awesome. This is all around really, really good movie, and you should definitely see it if you haven't seen it already. You guys see the new Star Wars trailer? I realize I'm kind of late, but like, I don't know if you can see. That was awesome. I initially clicked on the wrong one. A friend of mine posted it on Facebook, and I tried to follow the link, and it like wouldn't work with my phone. So I just like Googled Star Wars trailer, and I got a fake one. And I'm like, this looks fan made. I don't see what everyone's about. And I'm like, oh, it's a fake one. So I found the real one, and it was just like, yeah, it's Andy Serkis narrating. He's like, there has been an awakening. Have you felt it? The dark side. And then the lightsaber comes out, and it's like a broadsword. And like, not only is that practical, I don't care if it's like, oh, lightsaber never be like that, stupid fans. Because when your blades are locking up, you can catch it so it doesn't cut off your hands, like what happens all the time in Star Wars. Count Dooku, Anakin Skywalker. Like, everyone's always getting their hands cut off, so it's like, finally someone invented that. Not only is it practical, it's awesome! It is so cool! Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for this movie. And it's like, the dark side and the light. Ba-bam! Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. And I'm like, yes, Star Wars! It's kind of turdy of them to release a trailer a whole year in advance. Now we have to wait. But most people could argue that's what The Hobbit did. That's the other thing. Hobbit comes out in like 2 weeks. I'll have my review up as early as possible. I don't know if I'll see it Tuesday or Wednesday, depending upon how Bible study works out. I don't want to just like ditch my friends to go see The Hobbit. Yeah, so the goal is to have all the 2014 movies that I've seen done before the end of the year so I can do a top 10 list. I don't know if Foxcatcher and some of the other movies I want to see don't come to my theater time, I won't be able to get a top 10 list out by 2014. Bye!